Gentlemen, what is going on today? My name is Ryan Mickler. I'm your host. I'm also the founder of the Order of Man podcast and movement. Welcome here and welcome back. I had a really interesting experience the other day. I went bowling with my family because my oldest just turned 14 and he wanted to go bowling with us and the cousins. And so we went, and I had gone to the restroom and I came out and somebody had stopped me and said, "Hey, are you Ryan?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm Ryan." He said, "Oh man, I love your podcast." And we talked for a minute, and it was very cool that he came up and was appreciative of what we're doing. And we parted ways, and I went to bowling and we had a good time. We spent some time at the arcade and just had a good time with the family. And then we were leaving, we were putting away our shoes and putting away the bowling balls that we had used. And somebody had seen my Order of Man shirt and they said, "Hey man, that's a great podcast." And I said, "Oh, thank you very much." And he's like, "Wait, are you the guy?" I said, "Well, I'm the founder of Order of Man. I'm like, it's my podcast." He's like, "I had no idea." And the fact that I'm being recognized is a very strange, it's still weird to me when somebody comes up and says, "Hey, I listen to your podcast." And my knee-jerk reaction is, why? Like there's so many other better podcasts to listen to. But it's also flattering. And I appreciate when you guys come up and you say hello, and you know who I am, or at least you know what the podcast is. And it's pretty cool that we're growing. And I just want to first and foremost say thank you. It humbles me. It makes me feel good, frankly, to know that what we're doing here is having a tremendous impact in your life as a husband and father and business owner, community leader, the ways that you're showing up. So this is your Friday Field Notes, guys. If you don't know what it is, I'm going to share some thoughts with you from my interactions and conversations and discussions from throughout the week. And so they're fairly fast paced and short and very actionable. And today I want to talk with you about something called the X factor. We have all seen it. We've all acknowledged it to some degree. We recognize what it is. And I would be willing to bet that all of us want it, right? We want that X factor. But what I need to explain to you before we get into anything else is that the X factor is not some mythical, mystical, unknown factor that is only available to the chosen ones. That's what we think, right? Because the X represents what? A variable, right? If we're in algebra or pre-calc, we're always solving for X. 4 plus 6 equals X. Well, we know the answer is 10, right? But it could be the square root of 100 equals X, and we know the answer is also 10. Okay, but what we're trying to do is we're trying to solve for that variable. But guys, when we see a man that we're interacting with, whether it's me maybe, or the way that I felt when I met Tim Tebow or David Goggins or Jocko Willink, or the people that we're just generally inspired by, the first thing that we do is we rush to assume that they have something about them that A, we cannot quantify, and B, is not available to us. And that isn't true at all. It's very quantifiable, and it is very accessible if you follow what I'm going to share with you today, which is a 5-part framework for developing the quote unquote X factor in your life. And let's just remove the mystery from the X factor. It's not, it's confidence, guys. It's confidence. It's not ego. It's not pride. It's not an overly inflated sense of self-worth. It's confidence. Ego, pride, overly inflated sense of self-worth. Those things can be manufactured. And so you see some loud, boisterous, obnoxious individual walk into the room and pretends like he owns the place. You know that that's not really somebody with the X factor. That's somebody who's trying to replicate or fabricate what the X factor is, confidence. Alternatively, you can see a individual walk into a room and without even looking at that person, know that somebody important just walked into the room and maybe they didn't even say a thing yet. That's the X factor. And that's the confidence that permeates from a man who knows what he wants and is actively pursuing that. And that's the magic formula. Knowing what you want and actively pursuing it. So let's break this down even further. Number one, I already said it, you have to know what you want. If you don't know what you want, you're never going to develop the X factor. You're never going to develop any sense of confidence in yourself. You're going to be basically a sailboat in the wind, like wherever the wind's going to take you, and you're just going to drift where the coast and the current and the wind takes you. And If you end up in a good place, congratulations, but you may or may not. Guys, you have to know exactly where you're going. Exactly where you're going. This is why we talk about with our battle plan and inside of our exclusive brotherhood, the Iron Council, our vision so frequently. Because I want you to think about what kind of husband you want to be, what kind of father, what kind of man. When you engage with people in the community or your neighbors, what are you doing? How are you showing up? How are you making money? How much money? What do you look like? What's your physical presence look like? What's your mission? What are you here on this world to do? And who are you here to serve? And so if somebody comes up to me in the bowling alley and says, hey, man, I listen to your show all the time. It's amazing. And I love what you're doing. Right. Because I'm somebody who's stepping into my calling. I'm not unique. I'm not gifted. I'm not special. I'm not worthy of much of the praise and admiration that I receive periodically. I'm just on a mission, and people see that, and men and women alike recognize it because that's what they want for themselves. When's the last time you sat down and you took a notepad out and you really started to think about what you want out of life? But this is hard because a lot of you are in positions where you're doing something that maybe is considered meaningful. You're doing something that you're creating some decent income. You've got a decent lifestyle. These are the golden handcuffs. Everything is good. It's so, it's okay. And so you don't want to rock the boat, right? You're afraid of the uncertainty. And I've been here early on in my financial planning practice. I felt like I was doing the right thing. I felt like it was a noble calling. I was making decent money. The business was growing. I saw the potential. I saw how I was serving and helping other people. But deep down inside, and I really had to dig this up for myself, is I just wasn't happy. I wasn't satisfied. I wasn't fulfilled. I did not find deep, unrelenting purpose and value in helping people with their money. Now, I know people do, and I'm not mocking that or diminishing or downplaying because everybody's mission is different, but that wasn't it for me. And I quite literally had to talk myself out of it because it was all defensive. Like, oh no, Ryan, you have a good job. You're making good money. Whatever you would do on the side isn't going to do as well as this. This is what you're meant to do. Oh, so you're helping people. And now you're not going to help them. You're going to step away from them. All sorts of stories that I concocted in my mind. So knowing what you want poses a real risk to you and your livelihood and the well-being of your family, because you might need to, for the first time in your life, come to the realization that the way you're showing up and the work you're doing isn't what you are destined and called to do on this earth. And that's hard to deal with because there's real life consequences to stepping away from that work. I'm going to give you some other thoughts and ideas on how to make this work more effectively and efficiently. But the first step is to remove the clutter, remove the chaos, remove the excuses. All we're doing is exploring purpose and meaning right now. If you want some information on this, go back and listen to my conversation on Tuesday of last week with Ken Coleman. He talks about purpose. He talks about the things that you're good at. And he talks about the intersection between the things you're good at, the purpose that you have, and your ability to make money doing it. And that intersection could very well be what you're meant to do, but you are going to need to sacrifice in order to do it. Number two, once you have an idea of what maybe you want to do in life, you have to start formulating a plan. Now, it isn't going to be a perfect plan. If I told you that I had a perfect formula for the way that we were going to build Order of Man over 7 years, and here's how many people we're going to reach, and here's the events and the programs and the courses and the brotherhood, and here's how we're going to make money, and here's the hats, and here's the this, and here's the that, here's the people we're going to have on the podcast, I would have been lying to you. I had no idea whatsoever. But what I did know is that I wanted to start a podcast. And so I only needed to know 5 steps. What are the next 5 steps? A, B, C, D, E, F. Those are the 5 steps. I think that was 6, maybe. Those are the 6 steps. Which is first? A, good, do it. What's next? B, good, do that. C, good, do that. But formulate a plan and know that it isn't going to be perfect. It isn't going to be ideal. You're going to need to adjust and address issues and changes and things that come up along the way, but that's okay. You have to formulate a plan first. But don't let it be so elaborate and so complex that you never do it. That's the greater risk, is not that you don't have the perfectly crafted plan, but that you don't execute the somewhat decent plan. was it George Patton who said something like a perfectly a perfectly formulated plan is worse than some sort of like a mediocre plan that's actually executed. I butchered that. You guys know what I'm saying. Okay. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you have to have a few steps. You have to know in which direction you're going, right? If my vision for myself is to get up to that mountain that's just outside of my window here in my office, my first plan is, okay, how far is that? Well, it's 20 miles. Okay. How long does it take me to walk a mile? Maybe it takes me 10 minutes. Okay. Some of it is uphill. So maybe let's say 11 minutes. 11 minutes times 20. Here's how many minutes it's going to take. And then there's a river that you need to cross. So what are you going to do? Are you going to go in your wet clothes? Are you going to bring a change of clothes? Maybe that's going to take you 5 or 6 hours. Do you need to bring water? How much water? What food do you need to bring? Who's done this before? Do they know there's a trail? Is there a trail? If there is a trail, does that trail make it longer than the 20 miles it is from here to that mountain? This is the formulation of the strategy. Now, what's going to happen is I'm going to start walking on that trail, and I'm going to see that because we had a big windstorm over the past couple of weeks, that there's probably some downed trees that are obstructing my path. And so I might need to go around those things. There might be some sort of wildlife that I run into that I would like to avoid, like a black bear or something on my journey. Well, I think I probably should avoid that. And so we make adjustments and we pivot and we adapt as we start walking on the trail. But I don't get to know what's next until I take the first step. And that's point number 3. Guys, execute the plan. Execute the plan, please. I don't know how many times I've seen men with a vision for what they want, a decently formulated plan, not perfect because we don't know what's going to happen, but decent. And then they don't do anything about it. Holy cow, what a shame. What a shame that you were put on this earth to do something meaningful, to do something that would bring you pride and fulfillment and satisfaction, that would serve other people. And you're so hung up on it being perfect or your own inadequacy that you're not willing to address it. Do you want the X factor or not? Do you want to be confident or not? Do you want a fulfilled life or not? And if you do, you have to pay the price. And the price is work. The price is effort. The price is financial capital. The price is potential humiliation. The price is the consequence, financial and otherwise, of stepping into what you need to step into. So the guys that you see and you're like, man, that guy has it, whatever it is, that guy's paid the price. So don't tell me you want what he has and you're not willing to do what he's done. Now, if you do what he's done, maybe not specifically, but at least follow his framework, then one day people are going to look at you and think, man, that guy has something I want. That guy has it. That guy's got the X factor. And you'll know deep down inside that it isn't some mystical force. It's what you've earned. You've earned it through knowing what you want, formulating a decent plan, and then executing on that plan. Now, the next point, when you're on that plan, you can't deviate. Okay, you cannot deviate. And that doesn't mean you don't adapt. We do adapt, right? Because if I'm using that metaphor of climbing up that mountain and I come up to a sow, a black bear sow with her cubs, like I'm probably not just going to keep walking straight. I'm going to stop. I'm going to be still. Hopefully she doesn't see me. I'm going to back up and I'm going to go a different route because I don't want to entangle myself with that bear with cubs. That isn't something I'm interested in. That's not a sacrifice I'm willing to make. But I am willing to sacrifice walking a little bit longer to avoid the bear and to get where I want to go. I am willing to do that. And so when I say don't deviate, I'm not saying don't adapt and pivot. What I'm saying is don't say, it's too hard. I really wanted to go to that mountain, but that black bear is right there. So I guess I'll just go to that mountain instead. And what you're going to do is for the rest of your life, you're going to mope and you're going to sulk and you're going to ask yourself, what could have been had I had the balls and the audacity and the tenacity to move forward, to drive towards what I wanted to accomplish in my life. So yeah, there's going to be some bears along the way. There's going to be some down trees. There's going to be some people who don't want you to win. There's going to be some humiliation. There's going to be some failure. There's going to be a loss of financial capital. That's the price. And if you don't want to pay the price, that's okay. It really is okay. but admit it and stop talking about how everybody else has the X factor and you don't. Pay the price. Don't deviate. Now, there's an exception to every rule. And there's been times in my life, again, with my financial planning practice, because that was a goal of mine and I had a plan and I was executing the plan. And then I deviated, right? I quit. For all intents and purposes, I quit. I stepped away from it. So there's an exception to the deviation factor that I gave you here. And that is if it's no longer compelling to you, if it's no longer interesting to you, if it doesn't speak to you, if it doesn't call to you, then maybe you should be doing something different. The financial planning stuff, it just stopped calling to me. It just wasn't, it was a dread. You know, I would get, I'm picking up my phone here to show you. Now I'd get a call from a client or a text and I'd pull it up and I'd look at it and I'd just go, ugh. Not because of that person, but because the work wasn't interesting to me anymore. And so I had to find something interesting. You know, as I'm thinking about my son's 14th birthday, he's getting older. Guys, we don't have a whole lot of time here. And I could have very easily pursued a career in the financial planning practice for the next 10, 20, 30 years. And we would have had a decent life. I would have felt mildly successful. I would have been somewhat satisfied, but not fully. Not fully. And so if you're no longer interested in something and no longer speaks to your soul, then come up with a plan to get out of that and come up with a plan to do something different. It doesn't make you a loser. It doesn't make you a quitter. These aren't the labels I would put. You pivoted, you changed, you adjusted, you adapt. And that's okay. That's okay to do. Now, that said, be cautious because sometimes your mind will play tricks on you and say, oh, it's too hard. That's why you're not doing it, because it's too hard. And then what you do is you tell yourself, well, I just really wasn't interested in it. Is that really the case? Or are you not doing it because it's too hard? So don't lie to yourself about your deviation either. Be truthful about it. Hey, it really is not something that calls to me anymore. Or no, it still calls to me. It's just hard and I'm feeling a little down on my luck. That's a different thing. Because in that case, you're going to need to go over, around, under, through. I was at jiu-jitsu earlier this week and my instructor, Pete Roberts, was talking about different ways that we can pass the guard. And you can go over the guard, you can go under the guard, you can go around, and you can go through. And so, you know, we roll with somebody, and the way that I might train and roll with one individual, maybe that's a big, strong, physical person. For me, just to do a smash pass and try to plow through his guard just isn't going to work. But maybe if I can be a little quicker and I can disengage and I can step around and cut some angles on that particular individual, I'm able to get past that person. Now, alternatively, maybe I'm rolling with somebody like Ty Nichols, who is, you know, I probably got 30 pounds on the guy, maybe a little more. And he's super fast. He's super quick. He's super dynamic. The way that he trains, like, you don't know where he's going. And then all of a sudden he's choking you out from behind and you're just trying to grab onto anything that you can. Well, that guy, I'm probably not going to disengage and try to step around. He's too quick for me. But what I will try to do is keep him very close and very tight and just smash him, right? Different strategies, different tactics for different objectives and different things that you're running up against. Okay. So look at your objective, look at what you're trying to accomplish and ask yourself, is it that I'm not interested in it? Or is it that I don't know how to deal with it yet? And if you don't know how to deal with it yet, that's okay. Now we make ourselves capable of dealing with it. All right, guys. One other thing I'd say about the deviation thing. If you do mess up on your path, and you will. So let's say again, I'm on that trail, I'm going to that mountain, and I look up and all of a sudden the mountain's over to my left and I'm veering off to the right. And I've been veering off to the right for, you know, the last 2 miles. At some point you might question, is this still the right way to go? And if it isn't, and that's what you determine because you deviated, maybe you got distracted, maybe your head was down, you weren't focused. Maybe something or a sign or a person led you astray. Maybe you came across a hiker and they said, oh yeah, go that way at the trailhead. and they told you the wrong way, like that happens. So when you deviate, but you're still interested in being on the path, adjust course as quickly as possible. Like I would never say, let's take this metaphor even further. I'm hiking on this trail and I want to go to this mountain in front of me that's 20 miles away. And I come to a trailhead at 10 miles and I can go left or I can go right. And let's say I go right. And after a mile or two, I realize, you know what? I'm looking at the map. I think I went the wrong way. Here's what I'm not going to do. Well, maybe if I just keep walking this way, you know, something good will happen and I'll eventually reach it. No, guys, that's not how it works. You know what you do? You cut your losses and it sucks, right? Because a lot of guys will say, well, you know, I've walked this far. I don't want to have to walk back. I'm just going to keep walking and see if it gets me there. It's not going to get you there. You already know that. We already know that. There's already experience. It's already mapped. Like the map's not going to lie to you, right? Like you're not going to get there. So you could be stubborn and you could just keep walking on that trailhead and banging your feet on the ground, hoping that one day you're going to get there. But that's stupid, frankly. Cut the loss. Okay. If something's not working, cut the loss and adjust. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the map and say, oh man, I'm going the wrong way. I got to turn around. Yeah. You're going to have to go back a mile or two to get back on the trail, but that's better than just banging your head against the wall and keep going in the same direction. That's not going to lead you to where you want to go. There's a movie that I really like called Master and Commander with Russell Crowe. A lot of you guys have probably watched it. And they get stuck in a storm at sea. And I think one of the masts breaks off. If I remember, it's been a while. It breaks off and falls into the ocean, but it's still tethered to the boat through the ropes. And I think the term they use is it's becoming a sea anchor, right? It turned into a sea anchor. So it's anchoring them against the wind and the whole boat's about to capsize. The problem is that this mast, there was somebody in the crow's nest and when the mast broke and fell off, he fell off into the water. And the captain has to make the decision. Do we try to save that individual and risk everything, or do we cut it? And so he has one of the younger crew members grab the axes, the hatchets. And they grab the hatchets and he hands a hatchet to one of the kids as a crew member. And he says, cut these lines. Well, the guy that he gave the hatchet to happened to be the best friend of the man who was in that crow's nest, who's going to die if they cut him loose. And the master, the commander of the ship, commands him to chop those. And he does. And he sets the mast free. The ship uprights itself and they lose a man at sea. And the individual that had to cut his friend loose and essentially leave his friend behind obviously has a hard time, sitting with that. It's unfortunate. It's an unfortunate reality of life that sometimes you're going to have to cut your losses. And I hope we're never in that position where we have to cut a friend out who might potentially die because of a decision we're making. I don't think that's very common, if at all. But the point of the story is that at some point, you're going to have to cut your losses. And you're going to have to walk away from an investment. Or you're going to have to walk away from a relationship. Or you're going to have to walk away from one of your own vices or something that you're interested in order to pursue something different. You have to cut the anchor loose, guys. And it sucks and it's hard. But the answer is not found in keeping yourself attached to the anchor and hoping things just work out. So when I say point number 4, do not deviate, even though sometimes you will be pulled astray, cut the rope, set yourself upright and get back on the path. And guys, the last thing I'll share with you today is that you basically have to analyze this entire process continually and always, and then repeat the process. And what that'll allow you to do is that'll allow you to evolve and grow and expand and get better and question what works and question what doesn't, question whether this is still interesting to you, allow you to look at different paths if the bear is still in your way. Analyze it daily, have a system in place. I use our battle planner. If you're interested, you can go to store.orderaman.com and you can check out our battle planner. This is what I use to keep me on the path every single day. But if you're not analyzing it on a daily, even hourly basis. You know, I might do this podcast, for example, and realize that, hey, what I'm doing isn't serving me, so I need to pivot. It's not like I'm no longer interested. I just need to make this better. So one way that we've improved our podcast over the past month or so now is, you can see I have different lighting behind me. The camera quality is way better. Okay, these are all things that I've learned and I'm continuing to learn to try to improve and make better and improve your experience and ultimately our results. But that's because I analyze it. Okay, my audio's off, buy a better mic. Okay, my video's not great, get another video camera, which I've gone through 3 now because the first couple I didn't like. Okay, the lighting's blue. Do I like that? Does it really fit with our brand? No. So I'll get an orange light. Okay, I don't like how that worked out. So I'll get lighting that is like strip lighting, so I can hide it, but it still has the color. Okay, now I'll get lighting that I can turn on automatically. Like, I'm always looking for ways to improve what it is we're doing here. And you should be too. This is point number 5. Analyze your performance and repeat the process. Know what you want, formulate a plan, execute the plan, do not deviate, except for those exceptions I made, and analyze and repeat again. It's a cycle. It's a cycle. Guys, this is the X factor. It's not complicated. It's not very hard, actually. Take some time, take some investment, take some commitment, and it will become challenging along the path, but this is how you do it. This is how you become that guy. And you all know who that guy is. You all know how people look at him. You all know how people respond to him. You all know how much influence he has with other people. You all know the success that he's experiencing in his life. Do you want it? If you want it, this is how you do it. Very simple. If you don't want it, well, that's okay. That's your prerogative. But don't pretend like you want it, or don't say you want it without a willingness to put forth the work. That's all I've got for you guys today. This is how you develop the X factor, guys. I want more of you to have it, because if you have the X factor, here's the bottom line. If you have the X factor, you're going to be more influential with people. You're going to have more influence, credibility, authority. You're going to be able to lead. You're going to be able to produce results. You're going to make more money. You're going to look better. You're going to feel better about yourself. You're going to live a better life, and you're going to help other people live a better life too. You are not designed to shirk and to shrink and to be weak and mediocre and pathetic and cowardly and just drift as the ocean would take you. You are meant to rise above that. You are meant to have influence. You are meant to lead. You are meant to know who you are. You are meant to have a mission and a purpose, and you're meant to follow it, and you're meant to sacrifice for that purpose. So get after it. All right, you guys, we'll be back next week. Until then, go out there, develop that X factor, and become the man you are meant to be.